All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble. Of course, I do see the chat is working. It should be fine. Plenty of people piling in. Already got some super chats and everything. Lots of news today, of course. Keep in mind, tomorrow I do my normal stream, and then at 5:30, also I'm live with the quartering on his channels, Rumble and YouTube. I think he also does it on Twitter, but I can't remember. So, on his Twitter page, I think he also has the live streams there. For those of you who use X, like myself, I am streaming there as well. Thank you to the Twitter audience. It's just that Twitter is less of a streaming platform. So, the number of people that pile in is less. So I typically don't pay attention to the Twitter chat. But if you are watching on Twitter, don't worry. I appreciate you anyway. Had a great morning. Oh, you should see the crops out there and how quickly they're coming in. I'm going to have to make a couple more garden updates before I go to Europe. But I'm also getting row cover later because it's going to be a heat wave. It's going to be almost 90 degrees tomorrow. The peas are going to bolt. The pak choi will bolt. The broccoli will bolt. I need to cover them and keep them extremely watered. I'm going to chill some water, give that to them. Maybe I'll put some ice in the soil around them just to keep it a little bit cooler or something like that. Let's see what we got to talk about today. Trump's new trade war would cost middle-class families at least $1,700 a year, according to a new report. We'll get to why that doesn't fucking matter, and I fucking doubt it as well. There are various reasons. Bidenflation exists, everyone. Joe Biden's most potent message isn't reaching the voters he's aiming for. Interesting article. This is from the HuffPo. Normally, I don't refer to them because nobody reads them other than me anymore anyway. There is an underlying kernel of truth to the basic premise. They focus on the DEI aspect of the Biden administration, so the ID poll, like specifically Hispanic voters, specifically youth voters or something. But there is something much deeper. The HuffPo doesn't really talk about it here, but it is still worth mentioning. So we'll be doing a bit more of a deep dive on that one. Cartels are now operating in all 50 states. Hey, wonderful. The DEA just coming out and saying that fentanyl dealing involving cartels from Mexico and Central America, yeah, it's everywhere now. So in other words, fucking Alaska, fucking Vermont. Yes, there are cartel members in my state. That makes me so happy. Thank you to Phil Scott and all of the other morons, the rhinos out there that are doing so much to stop this. We've got a report. Chuck Calestro saying, breaking report. Rumors now emerging that Nikki Haley is mounting an attempt to put up a fight at the Republican National Convention against Trump. Doubtful, and it would be a chaotic adventure, certainly. She'd be literally trying to lance a windmill. It won't work. We'll get into that. It's not that it's so relevant, but it's interesting because then we get to dump on Nikki Haley. That's always fun. That's right down my alley. We've got the electric school bus grift. We'll talk about that and why it is a grift. And then Red Lobster. I don't really care about it, but a lot of people are talking about Red Lobster. They filed for bankruptcy. They're closing a bunch of locations and liquidating them. It looks like Red Lobster will be no more. Maybe they'll have a few niche restaurants devolve into a relatively limited chain. It ain't just the bottomless shrimp that sunk them. The ship that they were sailing on sunk for other reasons too. Been to Red Lobster before. I'll talk about that. And it's not bad or anything like that. It's not like Red Lobster sucks dick, but, they might, but I don't judge them for that. But there are other reasons other than the bottomless shrimp festival sort of bullshit that really fucked their company. Webster's Wares, Clank, this instant coffee sucks. Yeah, you got to get some jam and bean over there. Mike the Wop. Hope everybody is well. Clank, motherfuckers. Sassmaster, do you think history will be kind to Obama? I think eventually people are going to realize a lot of the social issues of now will be because of him. No, they will not. This will be carefully curated in historical records to shield him, much like with FDR. You prolonged the Great Depression and you threw hundreds of thousands of people into concentration camps based on their ethnicity. Somehow you're remembered as one of the top 3 or 4 presidents. They did it with him. They're going to do it with Obama, especially because he's black. Joe Hoffman. Sir Sticks, do you have any tomato growing tips? Use some eggshells, add a little bit of azomite, and you can't really go wrong. You got to keep them nitrogenated. Don't give them too much potassium until they're a little bit older, though, when they start getting buds. Otherwise, that can be a problem. My cherry tomatoes this year are literally the best that I've ever grown. They are outpacing every other flush of tomatoes that I've ever grown. Thank you to Heritage Heirloom Seeds, by the way. I can't remember which of the cherry varieties it is. I think it's the determinate kind, which is good because, you know, otherwise they'll get spindly and they'll spread everywhere. And a couple of aromas too. Those are doing well. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader. Greetings to you. The bonus holes. We aren't a band again or anything. We just wanted to say Elon Musk is a censorious fucking cunt. We are now even blocked from sending appeals. Yeah, just get a burner account. Yeah, to anyone that wants to, if you've got the ear of Elon Musk or somebody at Twitter, vouch for the bonus holes because they don't deserve to be perpetually off that platform. Logan Hull, are you watching the Trump trial? Part of it. What are your thoughts? The way I see it is if he's guilty, he is a martyr. If he's found not guilty, he will flex against the government, making him more popular. I agree. This is a no-lose situation for Trump, and all hell and chaos will break loose if they find him guilty. We're not even sure that there's a methodology by which he can be put behind bars. Imagine how weak and stupid the liberals will look if they get him on felony charges. Normally you go to a prison, but then they have to tell the public, we can't put him in a prison because he's the former president. He's had access to classified info and intel, and he literally still meets with dignitaries. He's also the nominee of a major political party, and he happens to have a security service detail 24/7. We can't logistically make that work, so we're giving him house arrest at the Mar-a-Lago or Trump Tower, wherever it happens to be. Well, that would be funny. The liberals will be rioting. I can't wait. Well, I hope he's found not guilty because he's self-evidently not guilty. If they find him guilty, sometimes that might even be funnier. Bayonne 201, good morning from Gaystow, Vermont. I am 1 day sober from alcohol. Wish me luck. I drank at the pool yesterday and took Xannies, and alcohol demon pushed me into the water. All scrapped up, Trump 2024. Yeah, I mean, if you're getting closer to rock bottom and pilling yourself up, you may want to drop the bottle. Just take it day by day. Don't go into it saying, well, I'm never going to drink again. No. Go into it saying, I'm not going to drink today. I've chosen not to do that. Then the next day you make that choice again. After a while, it gets easier. Minibukowski, I hope you're having a good day so far. Sticks, absolutely. An incredible day for multiple reasons, as some of you know. F. Winters Lodig, we're seeing congressional entourages that go to court with Trump. Are they impeaching Biden over these trials? The Republicans aren't going to impeach him. They're too weak. They don't have the votes. All you need is 2 Republicans to stand down or not show up, and you can't impeach him. He deserves to be impeached on 5 or 6 different counts, but no, Biden won't be impeached. I see Spazatron is farting in chat over on Rumble. I think he thinks that it bothers me. Trust me, I did shit like that on ICQ till their site shut down, so I find it amusing more than anything else. If it bothers anyone else, you can always mute the user. I refuse to ban people for simply spamming. Crooksfeld Incognito, the courtroom is packed with liberals. What are the actual odds they find him not guilty? I think they're better than 50-50. I think you might be surprised in the end. Although there is that little part of me that's kind of hoping that they find him guilty, just because all hell will break loose, and it'll probably secure him the election regardless of what the verdict is. Bocephus, Sticks, I went to Colorado recently. I asked locals if they recommended places to visit. They said anywhere but Pueblo. That's cartel territory. What the fuck? Yeah, there's cartel activity in Burlington, up here in Vermont. I mean, it's like 30 minutes from the Canadian border, and it's run by Mexican cartels at this point. They've managed to out-mafia the mafia. Where are all of the Italians that still have some sort of family dignity to force these people out, by the way? I'm glad that I'm in Rutland. We've got a significant Italian presence here. We're somewhat, therefore, sheltered from the gangbangers out in the wild. Praise the mafia. Not a banned account. Should Nigeria be allowed to repatriate gold from the U.S.? No. The bonus holes. Burner accounts are useless. We don't use social media for the sake of using social media. We are brand, and being banned on any of the mainline sites is crippling, hence why we broke up. I think you'll make it in the end. Just, when the going gets tough, the tough have to get going. Just, you have to put on a happy face a little bit. First news story. Trump's new trade war would cost middle-class families at least $1,700 a year, report warns. Yeah, the report coming from the liberals, of course. Trump's unprecedented trade proposals would inflict significant collateral damage on the U.S. economy. This is interesting. What happened last week? Can anyone guess? Oh, it was Joe Biden restoring the trade tariffs with China. Well, are you telling me that that's going to do the same damage? Because, I mean, $1,700 will buy you a candy bar at this point. So I don't think anyone would even notice. Costing consumers at least $500 billion a year, or 1.8% of gross domestic product, according to a paper published Monday by the Peterson Institute for International Economics. I wonder if you do an early life bio on Wikipedia about whoever's running the show there, would it be telling? I give a better than 50-50 chance that it would be. Trump's tariff proposals would cost the typical middle-income household at least $1,700 a year. See, here's the problem. Over the last few years of Bidenflation, you've got a lot more than $1,700 a year in inflationary expenses, and wages have not kept pace. A trade war with China would benefit the United States in the long run because it's likely to be a very short trade war. China will back down. They already blinked before because they're convinced that Donald Trump is insane and that he'll actually go all in. It's sort of a Kissinger madman strategy for economics, and it worked. Not completely, but generally it worked. It backed the Chinese down, and they rescinded some elements of their tariffs on U.S. imports and then raw materials and things like that. People disproportionately seem to believe that China owns the United States because of trade imbalance. Really, though, China would starve if it weren't for U.S. pork and soybeans and things like that. You realize that we feed half of China because we have what's called the grain belt, and we have all sorts of arable land and a much lower population density. China doesn't have this. We also give a lot of food to India and half of Africa, and we export all over Latin America as well. The United States is a food juggernaut. Well, you need food. If you don't have food, you get revolutions. He's telling people to let them eat cake. That doesn't go over well normally. China is co-equal to the United States in economic capacity at this point generally, but it's lopsided in one sense. It's like when people throw that map around that says, well, back in 1990, the U.S. was the largest trading partner of all these countries. Now look, it's China. That's because China has to import shit tons of material in order to synthesize it and re-export refined goods. For raw materials, they're reliant, other than for lithium and a few other things. They're reliant for foreign food. And the United States is the main food exporter in the entire world. Oddly enough, number 2 is the Netherlands, where I also reside sometimes. The Dutch do it better. I don't know how they exactly managed to pull it off, but over the course of half a millennium, they've managed to transform what was a relatively unhealthy, vast, extensive strand and swamp into a food juggernaut and, of course, a mercantile empire. For a very short period of time. They had some problems once New Amsterdam became New York, so to speak. Who cares? And this is a preliminary report. I think in the long run, it would actually benefit the middle class. You bring manufacturing back into the United States. You cut the Chinese out on that. You return some of that investment or shift it elsewhere, India, Thailand, wherever it happens to be, et cetera, and you weaken China in the process. The biggest mistake the United States made in the last 50 years was the warming up to China policy, where we said, okay, we're going to get them addicted to Coca-Cola and liberalize their economy. And it worked really, really, really well. That was originally under, was it Johnson or Nixon, I think originally? It was in the 70s. I can't remember which one. It worked, but they didn't get rid of their authoritarian policies or their East Bloc antagonism. And so ultimately, the policy just enriched China. We do not need to prop up China through favorable trade relations. We don't need to avoid tariffing them. And I love it when liberals of all people say, well, what about free trade? Yeah, it's free trade when everything that you export to them is tariffed at 50% and you don't do anything to safeguard your own industries. No, that's called stupid trade. Trump has pointed this out before. So I support the premise. I support a limited and short-term, but very, very vast trade war against China to put them in line. And then we can trade normally. We can be normal countries towards one another. Carrie Perrell, my uncle Thomas Jefferson, descendant of a brother, is running for state rep in Kentucky's 45th, going against Rhino incumbent. Please vote today. Okay, you've got a shout out to Thomas Jefferson for Kentucky 45. Midwest Gunnar, Rumble Channel shout out. Hard Bastards, HNN IRL music. Hilarious songs that poke fun at the establishment. There's a link there for those of you watching on Rumble, of course. Miss Stealth GT3, good day from California Sticks, enjoying some cinnamon coffee, and I'm getting started on my tomato and pepper garden. Clank, clank, brother. Yeah, this is a good year for potatoes. Let's hope that it remains at least an acceptable year for the pak choi and the broccoli and stuff. Jeremy K, first time I caught you live and in real time. Long time listener. Thank you very much. Much more to come. Fire down below. Have you ever seen the conspiracy theory video of the Malaysia plane disappearance? Was 3 orbs circling the plane and then vanished out of the sky? Haven't seen that. If you want to link me a DM on Twitter, you can. I'll take a look at it. Pate McDaniel sent 199 without a comment. Then he also commented, got some native wildflower seeds from my backyard. Anything special I should do when planting? It depends on the variety. If they're wildflowers, normally I just disturb the soil, add some amendment, and then rake them in. And so it actually cuts down on the germination. The tendency is when you put in like a seed mix like that, you sort of overpopulate it. And so you sort of, it spreads them out a little bit more. Iris Lee, sending love from my garden on Petit Jean Mountain in Arkansas. I absolutely loved your Fruits of Eden book. Thank you. There will be another edition of that coming soon. Good luck with the garden. Blue Mongoose, inflation is 30% or greater. Agree or disagree? Yes, if you're using an absolute metric, well, it's technically way higher than 30% over many, many presidencies. I would note the only president in modern history that has reigned over an economy in which wages outpaced the inflation to the degree that the average spending power of the American home was greater than it was in the prior administration was Donald Trump. It's the only time since the 1960s that that's happened. But I would agree. Kelikaku Kautin. Bernie Sanders was pro-tariff before President Trump. Your wonderful senator now. Not a peep out of him regarding the tariffs now, though. Many such cases with Bernie. Bernard, I don't want a tariff on ice cream. F. Winters Loading. You say you're an insomniac. I spend most nights rolling around in bed, maybe getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and tried almost everything. Any advice? No. Unfortunately, that's one thing I can't advise on. I'm just a chronic insomniac. It's getting easier to fall asleep these days. That side of the insomnia, for some reason, is slowly waning. Staying asleep is difficult, though, because any sound, light, anything like that, I'm a light sleeper, and so it'll wake me up. Carrie Peril, thank you, Sticks. Thank you, too. Next news story. Joe Biden's most potent message isn't reaching the voters he's aiming for. This article, interesting. Again, HuffPo, so, it's bullshit, but there is a kernel of truth to it. The basic premise of this article is that Joe Biden is being seen as the symbol of a broken establishment, which we'll get into that. That's correct. They focus on specifically how that impacts voting trends or intent among Black individuals, Hispanics, and the youth vote. So traditionally left-leaning blocks of voters. The young tend to lean more liberal/leftist. Black voters have been heavily Democrat Party for generations. Hispanic voters, until Trump came along, really, them too. It's looking like it's not going to be a 60-40 anymore with Hispanic voters. It's looking like it might be close to even Stevens. By the way, the Democrats are absolutely melting down over this. How dare you? We gave you all this welfare and we're bringing your relatives illegally from other countries. How dare you not vote for us? Clearly, you, the third-generation Hispanic who no longer even speaks fucking Spanish in the home, clearly you have more in common with Mexico than the United States. Oh, my poor little migrant who literally was born in L.A. or something. We will take care of you. Oh, you make millions of dollars because you established a small business after getting a master's degree? Well, you're basically the same as Pablo Pueblo over there, who just wandered across the border illegally with an 8th grade education. It's dehumanizing, if anything. I've seen it myself. I realized that I was married to a Mexican chick years ago. I've seen the results of that kind of policy. All of those skateboarder kids now are in their 30s. They were mainly born in the United States. They have a tenuous connection at best to their home country. Now they're having kids. Those kids are being raised in goddamn New York or Florida or Santa Fe or something like that. Some of them have never even been back to the so-called homeland. It's sort of like, are the Democrats going to come out and start saying, well, the Black population really needs to embrace its roots back in Africa before Kunta Kinte was brought over? And so they should fly the Nigerian flag or the Ghanan flag or something. I don't think that'll go over so well. You've also got the playoff between Hispanic and Black voters. But the central premise of this is actually quite true. The problem is that Joe Biden is the symbol of the establishment, and the establishment ain't working. They're artificially limiting it to talk about Hispanic voters. They feel forced out, partially because of the migrant crisis. And again, some of these people, the third, fourth generation at this point, they've never been to Mexico or whatever. Black voters as well. They look at the rise of crime, fentanyl, and things like that in communities where the Democrats have spent half a century telling them, don't worry, if you vote for us, this time we promise to improve your life, and they never really do. They talk a big game, but then they don't deliver. And people are beginning to notice that. What I say, though, is it goes way beyond just the id poll voting blocks, youth vote, black vote, whatever. It's everybody. Unless you are socioeconomically well off, so you're in the 5% or above, you are not doing as well as you were under Donald Trump, probably. Unless something serendipitous happened in your life. You know, you lost your job, possibly due to Bidenomics, and then now you flip burgers, dual shift or something like that. Inflation is insane. It should not be happening. We partially wrecked the economy, creating shortages and other problems with lockdownerism. That was state government led. It's not explicitly Biden's fault anyway, but he takes the blame for it because he supported it. He thought it was a good idea. We did a lot of damage to the economy, to education. And if you have your grandparents came over from Costa Rica and your parents were born in the United States and your grandparents worked hard, 60-hour weeks in order to make ends meet. Your parents went to college and they did well. They have regular average jobs. You've gotten a master's degree. You've started a small business and you're making, 500K a year or something. I would think that it would be at some point insulting to be compared to somebody who ignored that process entirely, came over illegally, and now expects the state to take care of them. Especially when you're making that kind of money, you're paying a lot of taxes. You're like, what? Why the fuck should I pay for this person? Why don't they just sign the paperwork and try to come over legally? It is possible to do so, by the way. It's not impossible to immigrate to the United States. If my grandpapa can do that and my mamacita, then why can't they do it? Why should I have to prop them up? I think in the end, it's a raw deal for people who come over here legally. Why would you even bother to legally immigrate to the United States when you can just lose your paperwork, say that you're from Venezuela, and wander across the border? I would think that, it'd be easier. Yeah, you're a bit of a pariah with an uncertain status, but you can't be deported. You're allowed to work. You're allowed to get guns, apparently. You're allowed to get a driver's license. Other than the inability to vote, why would you care? Apache. Best advice for getting to sleep is to keep your eyes closed and lay flat on your back. Don't get up or move no matter how bad you want to. Doesn't work. If I try to sleep on my back, I get waking dreams and then it wakes me up. Matthew Hammond. I'm thinking that we should never go back to normal trade relations with China. They cannot be trusted. We should also look other countries we trade with to confirm China is not bypassing tariffs. Yeah, they do bypass the tariffs, like Biden's tariff on lithium, for example, from China. Well, come on, man, got to slap 50% tariff on the lithium. Okay, they'll sell it to Mexico and they'll pay 5% more and they'll still undercut the U.S. market. Ta-da, now it's Mexican lithium. Yay. Chris Williams, Razorfist has tweeted about commie flight from California. The people that are fleeing the blue states due to the cost of living and things like that don't tend to be the liberals. And so don't read too much into it. By now, Texas would be a blue state if that were true. Well, the demographics have gone more red over the last couple of elections. There's a reason for that. Anyways, we'll get to some, just a second here. RJB Sticks, although you are the #1 grifter, Rumble ads should take the throne next year. In the last 24 hours, they taught me how to win the lottery, quit smoking, and get rid of COPD with gummies. Interesting. I never see ads on websites because I use Beefy Ad Blocker. By the way, YouTube no longer apparently penalizing people for doing so. Dailymotion following through. I've thought about beginning to upload there as well. Let's get to our merch partners, shall we, before we continue. We've got pumpkinfirecrafts.us. You can get belt chains, keychains, bookmarks, engraved spoons, amulets. Of course, I like those. And much, much more. Leather, metal, a little bit of everything. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer approved. BiltongUSA.com, the home of Biltong, yes, or Anton's USA. Based in Roanoke, Texas, you can get delicious meat. I highly recommend the elk. And well, I recommend it all, but especially the elk. And you can also get Stick, Sex, and Hammer shirts, tumblers, and mugs available now as well. wickedneedleembroidery.bigcartel.com, where you can get hats as well with the Ouroboros logo in several styles and several colors. heritageheirloomseedcompany.com, where you can get a seed survival bucket or the Sticks, Hex, and Hammer soap box. That is cedar, clove, and blueberry, and it is really good. Since it's a heat wave, I should probably shower later, and, you know, I'm going to be using that soap. Be sad when it's gone, and you need to make more of it. websterswares.com/sticks-wares. Use code STICKS as well on these sites when queried to do so, where you can get various miscellanea. We've got a bunch of stick stuff available. There are metal straws, so you can save some turtles. We've got beanies, yes, a little bit of an homage to you-know-who, and much more available now as well. I got a knife here. It's got the Ouroboros on it and is razor sharp. My finger found that out actually several times at this point. Whoops. Jamandbean.com. That is JAMNbean.com, the land of delicious coffee and tea. Try the Costa Rica blend. That is the most 6X and approved. They're all good, but that one stands out as just being like the best. Like that should definitely be the main flagship. I mean, I've never had a smoother coffee. I'm not saying that because they gave me free coffee. I'm saying that because I drank it and determined that to be the case, by the way. MTPU.com, that is MTPEW.com. Bearded Grizzly Ammunition. There is range brass that's been refilled, as well as newly manufactured rounds. You've got 9mm, you got 45, 40 Smith & Wesson, 5.56, 223, and many more available. And also BrickMuseum.com. They are opening soon and through August, actually, in Blair, Ohio. And Legos are down my alley. I definitely liked Legos as a kid. Never did get that big schooner, you know, the pirate ship, the one that every kid wanted. I never got that one. But I had two Armada flagships from the ones that had this conquistadors or whatever they were. Had a huge collection. Kind of miss it, actually, to tell the truth. Harder to get vintage Legos these days, but they've got lots and lots set up there. I'm excited about that. I'm probably going to pay them a visit at some point. Kenwell Predator 666. Greetings from a rainy England. Lotus Eaters soon. I'd like to go on their podcast. Yes. It's going to rain tonight. We're going to have a big ass thunderstorm. I can't wait for that because right now it's like 85 degrees. I got to get that shade row cover on and make sure that the cool weather crops stay really, really moist. Otherwise, they're going to bolt. Then my pak choi is doing so well. It's like, please don't disappoint me. I really, really need some fresh stir fry. When my child is here, she loves my stir fry. A little bit of mushrooms, some carrots, some celery. You got to have that. That baby corn. I'm going to be importing about a dozen cans of that. I haven't found it in any store, but you can get the water chestnut sliced up at the local market. It's like within a short walk of here, actually. And it's weird because, I mean, it's not in any of the mainline stores for the most part, but then you find it at the gas station. Tennybrook is pretty cool. Shout out, by the way, to the manager of Tennybrook, who I know watches my content. He might be watching it on his phone right now. Cool dude. Ozzy's Robots. Greetings, Sticks and Clankers. This is a tough hour to catch. Finally picked up 4 acres. We'll need to advise on what to plant. No weed, though. Lol. Yeah, keep it non-illicit. Depends on the climactic zone. I don't know where you've purchased this 4 acres. If you want to DM me on Twitter, I can give you some good garden advice. I happen to be pretty good at growing things, as people have seen. Next news story, not so fun, this one. Cartels are operating in all 50 states. And these are Mexican cartels, flooding American cities with hard drugs and using violence to maintain control, according to a new U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration report. The details. The DEA report found the extremely violent Jalisco and Sinaloa cartels are dominating the U.S. drug trade for meth and fentanyl, with thousands of cartel-linked foot soldiers operating within the 50 states. Nearly 38,000 fentanyl-related deaths occurred in the first half of 2023. Last week, the DEA busted Skittles man, Roque Bustamante, and 6 others in Florida for fentanyl distribution. It seized roughly 21 kilograms of pure fentanyl, 70,000 rainbow-colored fentanyl pills, 3,000 M30 blue fentanyl pills, 243 pounds of crank. You gotta get that crystal meth up in you, man. Yeah, give me that crank. 2 kilos of cocaine. That is very valuable, assuming it wasn't adulterated. If it's street coke, a little bit less. If it's the pure shit, you know, that you probably don't want to snort. Yeah, 2 kilos of cocaine. That'll last a while. And 24 firearms. Yes. I don't have a problem with people who sell drugs having firearms myself. I don't think that Hunter should be in on gun charges at all. Biden's border crisis. This is, of course, a dangerous symptom of Joe Biden's immigration policies, which have allowed more than 10 million people to stream into our country illegally. I always use this. Whenever you talk about that, people say, well, the average person coming to the United States, even illegally, isn't a drug cartel member. That's true. So let's assume it's only a tenth of 1%. That would be reasonable, wouldn't it? That would be far less than with the native population. How many cartel members did you just import? Can you say 10,000 of them? Well, that's a pretty good street gang. You can definitely control multiple cities with that. I go up to Burlington. How many people do you need to dominate Burlington for the drug trade? 5, maybe 10 or something like that? 10,000 people can take over the whole eastern seaboard for every significant city that's there and deal their drugs, knowing, hey, if anyone fucks with us, we got plenty of firepower back home. And we're literally known for hanging people randomly off of highway overpasses. God, the Crips and the Blood should be scared, hoping that the mafia families have a get-together and take care of the fucking issue. You know, at least they wear suits instead of bandanas, you know. That would be nice. Like as not, they'll get bought out or something. It's rather sad. You know, we need the Godfather. We need somebody needs to put the kibosh to this bullshit. Fentanyl's no joke. All right, you want us to deal weed or coke or something? Yeah, okay. You know, the average person's not going to OD on weed. When you get to the level of fentanyl, it becomes a big problem. And you think the government's going to stop it? If anyone's going to stop this, it'll be vigilante justice or it'll be other gangs. It'll be other organized crime that's gone more legit, like the mafia. Get the Israeli mafia involved. That'd be funny. Granite State Man, if we ever have a collapse, beware those gangs. Yeah, that's why we need more weapons and more hands. It's much more difficult for gangs to operate when people are armed. That's probably the saving grace. In Mexico, nobody has guns, other than the police, the military, which work with the cartels, and the cartel members, because they don't give a shit about the law. In the United States, if they fuck around in smaller towns, it's more of a problem for them. Their attrition rate will be far higher. Magna Defender 98. I have one wish for the MSM, to shut the fuck up about Koof. It's been 4 fucking years since it happened. It's a dead horse. Society is done with, I don't know if I can say that on a YouTube video. The MSM 100% deserves bankruptcy. Agreed. Lev Polyakov, from an ex-Border Patrol friend, the cartels have been auctioning North American VPNs to people all around the world so they can use the DHS refugee app with no proof required. 5th column in U.S. Interesting. I'd like more details on that. Aussie's robots. When I flew back from a month in Europe, the obesity in America was so stark, I can't imagine the city population defending anything. Yes, having been in the Netherlands, I will tell you, I hate to say this, but the average American has much more weight than somebody in Europe. And it's like, there's a difference between being curvy or a bit chubby or something, being like 5,000 fucking pounds. You don't really see that in the Netherlands. Can't vouch for the rest of Europe, but I mean, everyone in the Netherlands, they bike everywhere, so they keep a better figure. Saw one chick one time, it was in the Albert Heijn. I think I've told this story. And I figured this is one of the local college kids, you know, looked like a college kid from behind. She turns around, she's clearly like 75 years old. I'm like, holy shit. Well, somebody maintained themselves and has good genetics. And you see that regularly, by the way. Not dumping on American women because, you know, I'm an American too or whatever. But yes, in Europe, definitely the BMI is lower. Part of it's probably the food, less corn syrup and stuff like that. F. Winters Lodig, if they replace Biden, only Michelle Obama would work. That will not happen. Webster's Wares. Good morning, clankers from Endicott, Washington. Free shipping using code STICKS at websterswares.com. Custom sticks and Trump merch available. Show them beanies, baby. Yes, tomorrow I will show the beanies on the live stream. My apologies. They're in the other room at the moment. Hiro Sanishiban. I am from Cali. Can confirm we are getting boat people and drug addicts galore. Lots of new Muslims, gypsies, and blacks. The state is balkanizing, and those leaving are balkanizing the nation. BW, trying not to overcharge, but have you gotten checked for sleep apnea? You can have it without knowing. Do you snore? I do not snore. I don't have sleep apnea. I've had insomnia since I was a little kid. My mind runs a mile a minute, And so it's difficult for me to fall asleep. And I'm very sensitive to noise and to light. I'm almost photophobic, actually. And so it's difficult to stay asleep. I also have tinnitus, so I have to have a fan running or white noise when I'm sleeping. Lev Polyakov, the correct term is person of size, or POS. Now, Chuck Calesto did this earlier. This was the other day. Breaking report, rumors now emerging that Nikki Haley is mounting an attempt to put up a fight at the Republican National Convention against Trump. And I wanted to weigh in because some people, I mean, I'm not saying that he's lying or anything. It is, possible that she's going to attempt to do so. Here's the problem. Nikki Haley doesn't have any clout at the convention. Nobody wants her. She's gotten a handful of popular votes. She has 3 electors, and that's it. Everything else has gone to Trump. The race has been over for a long time. Technically speaking, it was over before it began. The primaries were over the second that DeSantis slipped under 30 in the matchup against Donald Trump, and they were super over the second that Donald Trump was charged with felony crimes in Bragg's court and quickly gained 5 to 7 points of overall aggregated support. The race was already over. DeSantis cock-blocked Nikki Haley. She faltered and stumbled going into New Hampshire and lost there. That was the state she spent $50-some-odd million in ad campaign money on singularly, and the race was over. If Nikki Haley is insane enough to show up at the national convention for the Republicans, she will probably be physically escorted out of the building. Nobody wants her. And the Republican Party doesn't really want Trump. Keep in mind, the neocons don't want Trump to be the nominee, and they definitely don't want him being president. But they have to grin and bear it. They, I think, have withdrawn at this point to hoping that the lawfare helps to keep him out. They're not expecting that. You can tell by the looks on their faces when they're on the morning news. And second to that, they'll simply try to obstruct. They'll say, okay, we have to deal with Big Don for 4 more years. What are we going to do? We deny him money for his pet projects as much as possible. He's going to run roughshod in foreign policy. He's already got a legal precedent forcing us to allow him to build the border wall. But then later on, we can ignore the border again, and it'll just be wall, and we just won't maintain it. Well, he'll extend his tax cuts unilaterally. We'll have to deal with that for 4 years, but, it'll be okay. And they're just sort of grinning and bearing it. Nikki Haley means absolutely nothing. She never had any significant organic support. It was all an AstroTurf to begin with. Half the people that cast the ballot for Nikki Haley were in open primary states, Democrats or independent-leaning left voters who said, well, Biden's going to self-evidently win because he's got no opposition, so I might as well take a GOP ballot and have some fun. It was a trolling attempt more than anything else. Ashley, ditto here in Japan, sticks so many thin people. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to get fat off of sushi. Although, I mean, I could gorge myself on it. I could probably pull it off. Delicious. President Irina Vladimirovna Putin. Hey, Sticks, please check your DMs. Thank you. Think you missed my message. My apologies. Let me check that real quick right now. Yeah, maybe some news tips coming through or something like that. Maybe it was a message request. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. But bump it to the top or something like that. I'll check it out later. Sorry for that. Chancho, North Nevada's USPS closes in January and having all mail sorted. Sacramento, 260 miles, Donner Pass. We all fear they'll start a couple months early for November. It probably will. Nevada, though, looks like it's no longer in play. I mean, Trump is leading in some of the polls by double digits. You're going to need a lot of ballot printers to overcome that. If all you need is 10,000 votes, you can pull it off. If you need a couple 100,000 votes, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Electric school buses may yield significant health and climate benefits and cost savings. Oh, that sounds great, right? Oh, shit, electric buses will cost less to operate than standard gas-powered buses? Well, then we should sign up for them. Oh, wait, see, there's one glaring problem. Electric vehicles are subsidized. Oh, well, when you take the subsidy away, all of a sudden the savings go away as well. And then there's the whole part about fossil fuel, which the price will necessarily rise if more people use electric vehicles, being used for energy generation as well. Oh, and shit, we import most of our uranium for our nuclear power stations from Australia, actually, a lot of them. So we become even more reliant upon foreign sources of fuel, necessitating more globalism, because if all hell breaks loose, it means that we doubly have to defend them in order to keep our energy grid from going down. This is a disaster. The electric vehicle grift is a heavily subsidized experiment into centralizing power systems in order to deprive people of their right to mobility, and nothing more. Replacing diesel school buses with electric school buses may yield up to $247,000 in climate and health benefits per individual bus, according to a new study by researchers at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Where do they get their money from? I'll say no more. You can probably guess. Here's the problem. That's wrong on multiple levels. You're including punitive penalties in the monetary sense on companies and things like that that are related to the climate change grift. You're looking at heavily subsidized vehicular manufacturing and powering, and a plethora grid that, by the way, probably can't even support all these extra school buses because there's just not enough fucking oomph in the grid in order to do so. It's a terrible idea. By the way, what works in some climates don't work in others. You remember when they had that big ice storm? It was back in this winter, I think it's February, and all of the EVs stopped working, like the municipal buses and shit. They just conked out completely because in cold conditions, they can't hold a charge. You're telling me that you want to transfer to all electric buses. Okay, very well. That might work in New Orleans or Austin or Los Angeles. It'll probably work in Tampa Bay or Miami or Atlanta. Will it work in Burlington, Vermont? No, I don't think so. Will it work in Boston? Sometimes. What about Chicago? What about Milwaukee? Or the Minneapolis-St. Paul region? I think you're going to have intermittent outages, and the problem is you're trying to use more and more mass transit at the same time that you're trying to transmit things into all electric fleets and stuff like that. Now you want to do it to school buses. Well, fuck the educational system, I suppose. First, you keep kids out of school for extended periods of time with ridiculous restrictions and stay-at-home orders and stuff like that. And now you're trying to make sure that a few days out of the year, every kid north of the Mason-Dixon line can't get to school unless they're being driven by a parent that might not be able to do that. Then they'll probably punish the kids for playing hooky or something. Oh, my parents have to work, Mrs. Smith. And so they couldn't bring me to school. Well, then your parents are derelict. Do the finger-wagging bullshit that they always do. Justin Miller, clank, clank, clank to you too. Let's see. Yeah, EVs are a grift in general. I'm never going to buy one. They're trying to start mandating that all newly manufactured vehicles are EVs. Well, that's great. Well, then I guess I have to learn basic auto repair. That's fine, though. I'm still going to be using gasoline. No, I don't care if you artificially increase the price, as you literally always do anyway. BW, over chat, I meant. Oh, I don't mind. You're paying me. There's no problem. And now we've got to talk about Red Lobster. Hard-hitting news, as you can tell. How Red Lobster's misguided endless shrimp promotion drove it into bankruptcy. That's the big thing. They're pretending that Red Lobster went out of business primarily because they effectively did the all-you-can-eat thing. And so a person with a big appetite can come in and they can eat more shrimp than the actual bill was. And so there's little, if any, profit, sometimes actually a deficit. That's true. Let me tell you an anecdotal story. And unfortunately, the buffet is not there. I don't really go to all-you-can-eat buffets, especially now at my age, because it's not really healthy. It's not cost-effective unless you're going to eat a shit ton of food. When I was a teen, though, there was the Keene Buffet over in Keene, New Hampshire. I discussed Keene the other day, actually, too. It's a nice place overall. It's a little bit of a college town, but it's sort of like a slightly larger, more artsy version of Rutland. It's pretty nice. Decent, a little bit warmer than Rutland. You're closer to the seacoast region. You drive an hour, you're in Hampton Beach. Well, that's pretty cool. And fuck the beach, go to the tidal flats anyway. So shave 10 minutes off of that. Go and see some seagulls and stuff. But there was a buffet there. And by buffet standards, they were really, really good. And the problem is that if the buffet is really, really good, a lot of people are going to go there. And they're going to stuff themselves. I ate 7 plates of food when I was 15 at the Keene Buffet. 2 of the plates were just the beef and broccoli, heavily loaded with the broccoli more than the beef, by the way. I really liked that. I had a plate of sushi. I had a bunch of crab legs and some rice. I had, what the fuck are they called? Dim sum. You know, those little dumplings with the meat in them. They look kind of like eyeballs. I liked those. Can't remember what else I ate. I had several plates of dessert, mostly fruit and some more sushi, but I had some soft serve ice cream as well. I definitely ate more food than the bill was worth. I can't remember exactly what it cost at the time, but I definitely ate more food than the value of the money that I was giving them. If you have too many people doing that, it'll be a problem. So Red Lobster did suffer from that. They lost millions and millions of dollars, and now they're filing for bankruptcy. In the end, you might have a hand. It'll be like sort of that one last Blockbuster video that still exists. You'll end up with a couple dozen Red Lobsters compacting into a regional chain in areas where they're more competitive, and hopefully they learn their lesson. But the other problem is that it's just subpar food. Unless you are getting the all-you-can-eat, which was problem number one, it doesn't make sense to go to Red Lobster. For an extra $5 per platter, you can go to the Ma and Pa fish restaurant that's probably next door anyway if you're in a coastal region, and it's much, much higher quality. For instance, in the Hampton Beach area, where my family used to go for vacations most years. And I can't wait to get back there. Tidal pools, by the way, over sand, absolutely. I'm going to be getting some bags of kelp for the garden. I'm going to be getting some seashells and bones and all the other cool stuff. Maybe I'll eat some shellfish raw, and then I'll get ptomaine poisoning or something like that and die. I'm just joking. But it would go there. And we did go to Red Lobster a couple times. There's nothing wrong with the food at Red Lobster. It's not bad. It's just standard, a little bit beyond fast food level. It's a little bit nicer. It's like with the calamari or something like that. But now go to Ray's Seafood, which I 100% endorse. Ray's Seafood, apparently it is still there in the Seacoast region. I think it's up near Rye, if I remember correctly. They are spectacular. It's a little more pricey, admittedly, and they don't have an all-you-can-eat buffet. But if you're going to have a plate loaded with calamari and French fries and a big-ass bowl of seafood chowder, paying a few extra dollars to make it locally sourced, they get their fish in from local fishermen mainly, I believe, they probably still do, and better made, just better quality all around, why the fuck would you go to Red Lobster? It's like, you've seen the squeeze for restaurants like this, especially like the family experiences. Friendly's is another example. I think they've been through 2 bankruptcies. There's nothing wrong with Friendly's. Used to eat there as a kid. And I will say that their fries are definitely very, very good. Friendly's gets my endorsement for French fries. They're almost as good as Five Guys. I favor them. It's better than McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or something like that. But the problem is you're in this sort of niche dining class where it's slow food. And so you don't get the convenience of it coming out in 2 minutes, and you don't get that extra cost cut. It's budget, but it does cost more than the fast food. And so you're sort of in this, it doesn't make, like with technology. You see a gap in technology right now. You see the rise of really overpowered PCs, desktop mode, and the rise of phones, so smartphone usage, and the things in between. How many people use a tablet at this point, unless they're doing art or they're in a hospital or it's a teaching experience? How many people genuinely use their tablet? No, they'll get a little bit more power under the hood if they've got a laptop. Those are still perfectly feasible. But then you've got this like missing link class of computers that don't do as well. They're more niche. Again, art class, college, something like that. The same is true with Red Lobster and Friendly's and similar restaurants. They got squeezed out because of the rise of people that didn't have enough money to pay the extra dollars there. And so they went with fast food and budget shit, like real super budget shit, or people that made a little bit more and said, okay, if I'm only doing this once a month, why am I eating at Red Lobster when I can eat at Ray's Seafood? And so that's really what fucked them. They didn't brand properly. They should have either made things more streamlined and cheap, which would be a downgrade and as far as the food experience with the affordable seafood thing, look for cost-cutting measures, or they should have upgraded. And they should have rebranded as, okay, now we're more of a middle class instead of like a working class once a month restaurant. And they failed to do that. Red Lobster was a solution looking for a problem to solve, in other words. And it wasn't just the bottomless shrimp buffet. Aaron Nelson, Alaskan crab disappeared. That was their huge draw and profit loss leader. No more crab, no more Red Lobster. The Emperor's Champion. My junkie POS, Mad Max Death Machine will be more reliable than EVs. Witness me. The Dashing Rogue, would you like to be a guest on my podcast, The Digital Renegade? We can talk about the Russian satanic Nazis, feminist Marxists' infiltration of Wicca. That sounds like a fun time. Yeah, DM me. President Irina Vladimirovna Putin. DM from War Thunder Neon, by the way. Also, you know, they'll just have the kids learn from home and use the school as a migrant shelter. YouTube censorship, 1337 speak, leet speak, lol. Ozzy's Robots, I blame DEI for Red Lobster's decline. I blame Red Lobster, but not for the reason that everyone is obsessed over. Yes, having the bottomless shrimp lost you money, but it also draws people in that want to get something else. It's like, oh, this shrimp is good. Maybe I'll try the salmon or something like that. And so you can recoup the loss. But they didn't manage to do that because the problem was that they were catering to a class of people that wanted the dining out experience, like the fancy experience, but didn't want fast food, but they're not going to like the middle class restaurant. Well, it's a limited number of people. It makes more sense to go out half as often and spend that sum in a nicer restaurant. Here in Rutland, for example, yeah, we get all the fast food along the Vegas Strip, but we've also got some really great shit. We've got Roots, the restaurant. We've got the Yellow Deli, although they're still closed for renovation, and some people are thinking that they may have gotten together in a great big cult meeting and they're about to go in People's Temple mode. So I hope they don't do that because I would definitely miss their hot dogs, their veggie burgers, and their Reubens. And the Deli Rose, really, really great sandwich, by the way. There's other choices as well. You can go to the Speakeasy. That's more of like a bagel cafe, but their bagels are amazing. Sprinkled with lox, lots of extra cream cheese. They're definitely liberals in there. They've literally got the Bernie stickers and they eat more kale and stuff, but they make good food and it doesn't really matter. There are a dozen restaurants in Rutland where you can go for a more proper experience, but then you've got places like 99 or Friendly's, and I think there's still a Friendly's in Rutland. Maybe I'll go back there just to be nostalgic and get a fucking burger and fries. And places like that, and they just don't do as well. They get squeezed out on both ends by places that are more beefy and more fancy for people's special occasions and stuff, and for the middle class, and places that are simply cheaper and faster, more convenience food. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's. Free shipping with code STICKS for your Biltong on BiltongUSA.com and AntonsUSA.com. We need to build our own store in 2024. 3444 Highway 287, Sunset, Texas. Help us buy more Biltong. I'm sure that you'll be able to make the money. Did I already read that one out? I think I accidentally skipped. Well, he gets an extra shout out if I didn't. You know, that's perfectly fine. If winter's loading, having been to some places in South America, I think Americans are looking thin when I come back to the U.S., especially women. Weird, because the U.S. supposedly has higher obesity rates. Yeah, there are plenty of other countries that have supplanted us. I think Saudi Arabia, if I remember correctly, is one of the most obese now. It's like a 40% obesity rate or something. But the Netherlands, no. I mean, there are people that are chubby and stuff like that, but you don't see the really morbid obesity, like, you know, the 400-pound land whale like Chantel wandering out of Walmart with bags of chips. You don't really see that. Okay, Anton. Yeah, I accidentally skipped yours. Sorry about that. We got your shout out on the end. Musically Assured Destruction. Ayo, little sticks, start your own lobster farm. I don't really like lobster. And I've had it from Red Lobster. I had Asian-style lobster at a really great restaurant called the Kong Chow, which now is the Kong Chow Fusion and only does carry out. And I'm really sad about that. They were a great restaurant, even under the new ownership. They had all sorts of cool stuff. Really good quality mugu gai pan and some of the other foods that they have. They're still good, but now you can't do the dine-in experience. And it looks a little bit dilapidated, and it's sad to see it go. It won't last longer. But I had Asian-style lobster. It was all right. But, you know, for the cost, why the fuck am I going to pay $20 for some lobster when I can pay $15 for twice as much meat of pretty much any other kind? I can get chicken. I can get beef. I can get shrimp, calamari. If I want seafood, I'll get calamari more often than not. I love calamari. Fried calamari. Yum. Drenched in ketchup, of course. Squid is great. BW, I would not go into a leftoid restaurant if they knew I was a conservative. I don't worry about that. I don't really care. They've got good bagels. What can I say? By the way, one of the chicks that worked in there looked almost exactly like one of my ex-girlfriends. One that later on I didn't get along with very well. I was afraid at first. I was like, oh shit, you know, she's working here. It wasn't her though. She just was basically an identical twin. They could have been identical twins. I thought that was hilarious when I realized it wasn't her. Realized it wasn't her when she didn't throw a bagel at my head. Just saying. But yeah, yeah, calamari's good. I like the, yeah, I'd say for Rutland, if you ever come to Rutland, Vermont, and hey, you know, do a meet and greet sometime, I guess. The Speakeasy, if you want like a breakfast or like just a bagel or something, go to the Speakeasy. They really are superb. The lox are nice and fresh. They load you up with the cream cheese. They don't skimp like some places. That's always good. They toast them perfectly every time. I've had a lot of bagels from them. Also, and Liz will attest this, they have excellent cookies. I don't eat sweets, but she says it was the best chocolate chip cookie she's ever had. I'm assuming they're handmade. So that's good. Go to Roots, the restaurant. I think they've changed locations to the other side of the courthouse now. They've got extremely good food, very good burgers. Unfortunately, I think Table 21 went out of business recently. And they had good burgers and fries too. I got their sweet potato fries. Those were superb, but I think they went out of business. Anyway, I don't know why. I thought it was good. And then the Yellow Deli, but again, they're currently doing whatever the fuck the Yellow Deli people are doing, so they're not open at the moment. There are good restaurants in Rutland, but if you just go down the Vegas Strip, what is it? You see McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and Five Guys and stuff like that. At least go to Five Guys. Five Guys might meet the same fate in the end because they try to be like a little bit of the upper end of it's sort of like Red Lobster to seafood is Five Guys to burgers and fries fare. It takes a little longer to get your order. It costs a little bit more, but the quality indeed is better. Their fries are superior, I will say. They could end up with the same fate. Maybe not in their case. They might be able to make it work. I had their BLT. It was really good. It's just pricey for what you're getting if you want fast food. Fast food is supposed to be really fast. Of course, there's an interplay between how fast they get it on your plate and how fresh it's going to be. McDonald's doesn't care. That burger might have been sitting there for 60 minutes. It doesn't really matter because it's a McDonald's hamburger. Even those under Bidenomics getting more pricey now. By the way, I very rarely go out in public anyway, let alone to eat out, because I prefer to prepare my own food whenever possible. And like tonight, we got tuna noodle casserole. Just dump some ketchup in it. I'm perfectly fine. If Winter's loading, when Trump wins, are Dems going to create more Russia investigations? How much more of this will people buy into? I think they've played that hand excessively. I don't think they can make that work again. They'll just try to obstruct him, keep him from allocating funds to the things that he wants to do. But they'll fail on foreign policy and they'll fail on the border. He's got wide latitude on those two issues. And if that's all he manages to do and press the issue of anti-censorship, he'll be a success. Yeah, Ubuk. There's fast sex, casual sex, and fine sex, just like dining. Yeah, things come in different gradients. And of course, you know, a quickie is not going to be the same as a 2-hour-long love fest. There are advantages to both, you know. Depends on your mood and what you're into and the interplay between you and the other person or persons. Or if you're in Alabama, the animals. Just a joke. No offense, men. So, you know, it's like the old joke about the Alabama family tree being a bamboo stalk. I know that that's just a stereotype, but come on, it's funny anyway. Self-deprecate, Alabamans. I know Vermont, where, you know, the men are men and the sheep are scared. We have similar jokes in our state. There is some unfortunate levels of inbreeding in certain parts of this state. Over in Hinsdale in New Hampshire, right across from Brattleboro is apparently like the incest capital of New England. You'll see some weird people there. No offense again to anyone from Hinsdale. I'm sure that you're mentally and genetically normal, but have you looked around? Yeah, it's sort of like that scene in the second Blair Witch Project where they're in that Hoboken fucking redneck town and there's all the people that are clearly inbred and like whacked out in the store when the goth chick goes in there and they're just all messed up genetically. Or a little bit like, you know, Deliverance or something like that. Yeah, are escorts considered takeout? I suppose so. Yeah, I don't go to restaurants generally speaking. I don't have the time for it. I don't have the patience to sit there and wait, and I don't really like fast food because it's not really healthy and doesn't do it for me. Once in a while, a place like the Yellow Deli, okay, it's fun to go to. And again, at the Speakeasy, it doesn't take them long to toast you a bagel. And it's good, it's delicious, it's healthy, it's good gardening food, especially with piles and piles of brined lox on it. Yum. Man, I can't wait to get another one of those. I'm sure that Liz will demand a cookie. I'll eat the bagel. I'm going to steal hers too. I'll eat 2 bagels. I can. I have that power. I will never say no to a bagel, but one more thing before I go. Please send no more super chats. I'm just ranting at this point, just for humor's sake. I've gone on an hour. One more thing. It's a pet peeve of mine. When people don't put enough cream cheese on the bagel fucking sucks. Doesn't matter if you toasted it right. The bagel will still suck. You got to have a shit ton of cream cheese. And I will challenge all of the cream cheese companies out there. Either you need to start selling bagels in 5-packs instead of 6-packs, or you need to increase the amount of cream cheese in the pack. Because 1 brick of Philadelphia will get me through 5 bagels. It will not get me through 6, not unless I'm spreading it so thin I can barely taste it. I want there to be a band of cream cheese almost as thick as either half of the bagel. That's ideal. Then I'll pile with lox and chives, preferably. Oh, over in the Netherlands, one last thing. They have Noordzalm, which is basically like lox. It's really thin-cut salmon that's been brined. Delicious, nice, smoky brine flavor. And if you put that on a bagel, it's basically the same thing. It's not actually that expensive either. I was surprised. I had a bagel there. I mean, I had a band of that was wider, actually, than either half of the bagel. It was basically like eating a salmon sandwich. Anyway. While I like ranting, I should probably go out. I think at some point, Mom will come back with the row cover. I need to protect the peas and the pak choi. That has to be done. Otherwise, they're going to die, basically. And all sorts of crazy shit. Mina Bukowski, fine dining is worth the time and distance. Yes, depending on how fine the dining is and how expensive it is. I don't know. I prefer mid-end places, but not in like the Red Lobster Friendlies class. Friendlies is probably the only one I might eat at just for nostalgia's sake because I went there as a kid. But like 99, I hate 99 restaurant. The one time I was there, for some reason, I got the root beer. And it tasted like instead of adding sugar, they added salt to it accidentally. And it was absolutely disgusting. And I didn't even bother bringing it up at the time because I'm like, they probably pre-mixed the root beer. And it was like, okay, so this is kind of like Applebee's, but with shitty root beer. Applebee's, another one. Don't like Applebee's either. So yeah, I'm going to go offline now. I will be back tomorrow. Keep in mind, again, I will also be live at 5:30 p.m. with the quartering on his channel. And so 2 live streams, Mondays and Wednesdays. I got to go and water the cool weather crops before they fucking bolt. That's about all.